Warning, the video you're about to see for YouTube is disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
So welcome to the part 4 of the dark, obscure and disturbing video game Iceberg. We're almost at the end. Prepare yourself because we are going to talk about some abstract games you maybe wanna check out or you wanna stay away. The previous videos will be down below if you didn't check them out already, and please let me know, do you enjoy this type of videos, and let me know which iceberg should I tackle next. Do not hesitate anymore, let's start with the layer 4. In a weird flash, all the women disappeared from the world. This weird action leads that the men who are left in the world turn to barbarism and aggressive behavior, and they found a drug that can turn them into a weird abomination if they overuse it. Your character finds in the middle of nowhere a little girl. Because of the horror that is happening in the world, he decides to protect the girl no matter what, despite struggling from a drug addiction. After somehow she got kidnapped, you do everything you can to save her. It's a weird and bizarre game that looks like a 2D Earthbound game, but the game presents many dilemmas to the player. For example, where he needs to choose to permanently decrease his status or sacrifice one of his party members, which can lead that the other members leave the party. Don't let the somehow cute graphics fool you, because this game is pretty bizarre and disturbing with its odd dialogue. A good horror game needs fleshed out characters. Saya no Uta is a visual horror novel that takes you on a wild trip. After a car crash, our character ends up in coma. After waking up, the character is only seeing the world from a grotesque perspective. Everything is covered in flesh, skin, organs, and the constant smell of rotting flesh is not leaving him alone. The game can be considered as body horror because of the imagery shown, but this game goes more in a psychological and existential questions. What I mean by that is that our character is tortured by demons every day, and he questions every relationship he had. Many moral dilemmas start to appear about what is wrong and what is right. The game has a preset railway to follow with not many options. You are here to sit and enjoy the horror that is unfolding to you. The game switches like Silent Hill between the world depending on the situation. Maybe this game isn't the best horror game you ever played, but it's worth your while if you're in such a things. PT was a game that nobody expected, and it shook up the game industry like no other game. After so many years of Silent Hill being a dead and forsaken franchise, we finally got a new entry, a new demo. So that Konami with Hideo Kojima, the maker of Metal Gear Solid, deliver us a game that would be remembered for the eternity probably. For an unknown reason, this masterpiece got cancelled and we were left with our imagination of what could the game be. This game has a special vibe and atmosphere which only Silent Hill can bring to the table, and it's a really sad story that the game was cancelled. After waking up, you can explore your little apartment and you will do few tasks, such as feeding your beloved shrimps, finding your keys and wanting to chat with your friends, but ending up to talking with a bot. After that you need to clean your microwave and eat, but to your unpleasant surprise your fridge is empty and you proceed to eat one of your beloved shrimps, before going to see what is hidden in the hidden room behind your bookshelf. And for our unpleasant surprise, there is a naked man in a cage. After we decide to go to bed, you see a note that you left to your mother about how your dad is gone and you wanna end it all to suffer no more. This game is fundamentally a simple in the gameplay elements. Now analyzing the game, we can debate that this whole thing what we see is unfolding in our character's head, because he's suffering from deep depression. The only friends he had, he proceeds to eat, which can be explained as he's breaking up his existing relationship with people. And when he tries to reach to other people, he's talking to a bot. And our door to apartment is locked, so we can only look outside. This could be explanation of this game, or I am overthinking things. Go play the game and state your comment. Set in the 1950s, in Japan, the game revolves around the grotesque murder of young high school girls, and thus the player is bound by 1950s technology. So there is no DNA testing, but also no cell phones. The detective who wants to find about those murders discovered that his wife was also murdered by the serial killer. The game theme is about rebirth and moving on from the past tragedies, and cleansing yourself from the sins from the past. The game is a true mystery novel. Sadly, the mystery is bigger than the twist at the end. But this game has a nice system where you can manage all your decisions, and it's a pretty long game also. And of course, the game has its share of graphic horror, especially how they presented the dead high school girls. So the game starts with 4 students. They all gonna retreat together, then one of the characters starts to talk about a ghost witch in the forest. And then they start disappearing one by one. The gameplay is simple. You make shapes touch together with matching colors to rank up more points, while 2 of the same color shape are in the air, make them touch each other. A weird concept, but okay. There are 3 endings to the game. You will unlock a certain ending depending on how many points you get, and the game loves to mess with your computer a bit, because you will receive some photos which the game will change throughout your playthrough. But after my research, I'm not quite sure if this game will be worth your time. Corpse Party is a cult classic game at this point and definitely deserves a spot on this list, but I think this game has a pretty big following. If you're not familiar with the game, let me clear you up a bit, okay? So a group of friends gather in a school to say goodbye because one of their friends is transforming into another school, but then they got sucked into another dimension, basically hell. Gradually they either starve, go mad and kill themselves or kill each other. There are also a good chance that you run into many torture spirits who roam the crumbled halls of this school. Don't let the 16-bit graphics fool you. This game is a graphic horror at its finest. The 16-bit gameplay is followed by pictures and static images of character for more immersive experiments. There are also many versions of this game, with each having alterations. Dreaming Mary follows Mary, who wanders around in her dreams, obviously. This game is a pretty short game made in the RPG Maker. You will need to do some tasks for some characters you meet along your way. To experience the game in its full glory, you will need to beat it a few times, and really watch out for the small things and hints. It's like you need to dream again to see the true things happening. You will dig deep to find disturbing things and replay the game a few times, but the game is relatively short, so that's a good thing. And man, the game will give you the chills and keep you on the edge. The game isn't about jumpscare, but it's about setting the right atmosphere, and it really succeeds to that. So, you guys remember Doki Doki Literature Club from the previous video? Well, this game is from the same guy, so you know how good this game is. It's again a visual novel with smooth water palette graphics. The visual direction is great, but we are here because of the dark aspect, aren't we? It's about a trio: Shinichi, Miyuki and Aoi. Aoi is definitely the weirdest of the bunch because she can talk to God apparently, and you want to get to know her more, trust me. It's a deep and interesting story about a love relationship with ultimatum at the end, so fans of horror visual novels will find much enjoyment in this game. Manhunt is probably one of the most controversial games on the PlayStation 2, but also probably on the Nintendo Wii also. I will talk about in general about Manhunt in this video. So if you are into horror and violent games, there isn't any chance you didn't hear about this game. The game is a stealth-based game with a lot, and I mean a lot of brutal executions played out in cutscenes. What adds the cherry on the top is definitely how the game, for whatever reason, was put also on the Nintendo Wii, where you need, with the motion control, performing brutal executions, imitating how you are strangling somebody or stabbing. We all know that Rockstar doesn't shy away from controversy, but this game is still probably the most brutal release they had. Manhunt is blacklisted in many countries and is forced to be censored to be released at all. The plot of the first game follows a serial killer who got released by a guy who calls himself the director, and he wants you to do obscure and brutal murders so he can make snuff films. The way the game lets you kill people is just wild. Unfortunately for you guys who are maybe interested in playing this game, the copies of this game are really hard to come by. So, on to the next game. Swansong is the story of broken people living in a broken world. This post-apocalyptic graphic horror is yet again another visual novel, but this will turn your stomach. Swansong does some interesting things with the lore as it lets you to play with 5 different characters. This game has a great visual art style. The story starts maybe a bit slow, but when it starts, oh boy. When the village is hit by an earthquake, the people who are left, they need to survive the harsh nature in wintertime. But after a bit, we will see how humans turn on each other in life and death situations. Because I don't want to risk any YouTube strikes, this game includes, yeah, those things you see on the list. But the game doesn't glorify any of these things. The game is kind of weird. It has many bizarre scenes. For example, the scene when one of the girls, for whatever reason, is dancing naked in the snow, and to top it all off, she's kind of bloody because... yeah, I don't wanna give any more details, okay? I know those things can be turned off to many people, but hey, you saw the theme of the video. What did you expect? We will talk about ponies and rainbows? Oh yeah, we did talk about ponies in the last video. The game is also pretty long, around 50 hours. The developers wanted also to try to portray their view on many things about how they see the world, so it can drag a bit too long on some things. If you for whatever reason want to play this game, I warn you once again about the content. Whoa, we can't really get away from the visual novels, can't we? The game revolves around Mercy, a teenage girl living in a miserable life in an isolated village led by a strange religious cult. Mercy involves various hallucinations and delusions, led her to be embraced by the community as a mystic power. However, when the certain chains of events turned her visions dark and disturbing, she was proclaimed as a cursed barrier, and she started being perceived as danger. Soundless, most immediate themes are those of mental illness and social exclusion. We observe the whole story throughout the lens of Mercy's mind, which wraps the reality around her in a disturbing fashion. The game has a distinct art style that really looks nice, especially with the washed out background images. My name is not important. What important is what I'm going to do, and I fucking hate this whole world. Remember the scene from Modern Warfare in the airport, in which you can kill innocent people? Well, this game is that scene on meth. This game is an isometric first and third person shooter. The edge protagonist is a psychopath who goes on a rampage. Why? Well, the game doesn't tell you. What is important? You need to kill everybody you see. The game has a special art style with its black and white color palette, but they added some flavor because some things like flames, blood, police lights are in color, which brings a certain depressive and gritty view to the game. The game is definitely Postal inspired, but it can be also described as a murder simulator. Some of the games on the list until now include deep story and character development, but this game lands somehow just hollow, because it doesn't bring anything to the main character's story. It is just violent because of sake of being violent, with no proper explanation of background. But now let's move on from this game to something more serious, shall we? Okay, the last sentences was a bit sarcastic. As Postal games have quite a lot of releases until now, I will for the sake of this video talk about Postal in general. Postal will definitely, without any doubt, push many buttons. Trust me, with so much bad and foul humor and the things you will do in the game, you will be offended and you will offend everybody in the game. Postal is everything that hatred wanted to be. While hatred is just pure violence, This is violence mixed with some humor. Some can argue this is toilet humor with much offensive stuff, but hey, if you grew up in the early 2000s, this game shook up the industry quite a bit. I mean, in which game can you use a cat as a silencer? Running at scissors at its finest. The game revolves around a postal dude doing normal things in his life. For example, you pick up a paycheck, then the bank got attacked by a certain group. Then you need to pick up some meat. You go to the butcher shop and you discover they're using human meat, and so on and so on. But Postal is giving you options for the most part. To beat every mission, you don't really need to engage in action, but let's say sometimes there are another way around it. This game is everything that the mainstream games aren't allowed to do. Postal knows that and he embraces it. I did also a video about Postal on my channel if you wanna hear me more talking about it. Somehow Postal has a special place in my heart, and it's a game I definitely will mention a few more times on my channel. So, I am glad you make it to the end of the video, and a huge thank you for that. I'm really enjoying this series of videos, and I hope you're enjoying it too. As we are at the end of the video, if you have any suggestions for the next video, leave me a comment down below. I would appreciate if you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I see you in the next one. Snorky over and out.